Hi, I'm Rich Harrington, and welcome to this edition of the Photoshop CS4 Sneak Peek podcast. We're going to take a look today at one of my favorite features. Now, the color range command has been part of Photoshop for a long time, but with Photoshop CS4, it has an important new feature that makes it much more powerful. Let's see how we can use the color range command to really make it easier to do some localized color correction. Go ahead and choose Select Color Range. And this command has been here for a while. Now I want to go ahead and select the cherries here and start to make a change. So I can hold down the Shift key and start to drag, and you see that it picks up more of the image. Now that's great, and it's doing what we're telling it to do, except there's a problem. Notice up here in the upper left corner and in the bottom right corner that we have parts of the image being selected. Now, in this image, the color range command is doing exactly what we told it to do. It's making a selection based on the red. That's very useful. But it's also selecting some red pixels that are in the image that are at the top left corner and the lower right corner. And we don't want those pixels for this adjustment. Yes, they're similar in color value, but they're not part of the selection we want. And using Photoshop CS3 or earlier, you'd have to go back after you made your initial selection and throw that part away. But with Photoshop CS4, they added a great new feature, and that's the localized color clusters. So let's go ahead and Option-click Reset here and make sure that the localized color clusters box is checked. I'll take fuzziness down a bit and click to make an initial selection. You'll see that parts of the cherry are selected. Holding down the Shift key, I can start to click and drag through the image here to add more to the selection. And if needed, tweak the fuzziness slider so it picks up a little bit more. There we go. Play with range as needed. And we're doing pretty well here. There we go. I'll go ahead and click OK, and you see an initial selection is made. And I'm going to go ahead to the Adjustments panel and add a hue saturation adjustment. Let's go ahead and pump up the saturation on those cherries and lighten them up just a little bit. And we'll tweak the hue, rolling them so they're just a tad redder. Great. This adjustment worked really well, and you see we combined the color range command with using two other options, the Adjustments panel and right now the Masks panel. If you missed it, we covered both the Adjustments panel and the Masks panel in our earlier episodes. You can go back to cs4.com, that's CS4, and check out those back episodes. Now, let's see how we could refine this. I'll switch over to the Mask panel, and I'm just going to tweak the feather slider here just a little bit to get a slightly more believable edge. And that works well. Let's go ahead and turn that adjustment layer off and on, and you'll see the original and the modified. And that worked great. We were able to go after just the red and the cherries and get exactly the results that we wanted. Let's see the color range command one more time. I'll switch over to this image here, and I'm going to choose Select Color Range. With the Localized Color Clusters box checked, we'll click in the image and then hold down the Shift key to drag. And you see that it's isolating the adjustment. Without that box checked, more color gets picked up. So this really does a good job of isolating the color and trying to keep it so it's really the closest values. That worked well. Let's just fuzz that out a bit. We'll click OK, and we've got a selection of the purple flowers. I'll go to the Adjustments panel and click on Vibrance. And now we can go ahead and pop that a little bit so the colors really get intense. Take saturation up a little bit. Here's the original. Here's the after. And you see we did a great job of just adjusting that color within the image. So the Select Color Range command is really useful, especially when you combine it with the Adjustments panel and the Masks panel. So that's it for this episode. I hope you learned some of the new things that you could do with Photoshop CS4. It's a very cool release with lots of great new features that really make it easier to get the job done. Go ahead and visit cs4.com. We could find out additional information, enter our contest, and find all of the episodes in one place. And if you enjoy our training, be sure to check out our regular series. We offer 2 free weekly podcasts all about Photoshop. The first is called Understanding Adobe Photoshop. It's designed for people who work in digital photography, graphic design, or just generalists who want to get more out of what Photoshop offers. For those of you who work in video and motion graphics, we offer another show called Photoshop for Video. And this show is all about using Photoshop to create content for professional video production. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Rich Harrington.